A hot lead is a dumb movie made by a bunch of dumb kids with a dumb dream. And that dream is making dumb movies. Hello, I'm Mr. Salami. Johnny No-Shoe Salami, that is. An obvious ripoff, a subtle homage to a classic review of a particular sci-fi film that I'm sure you guys have never heard of. Anyway, before I begin my completely original internet review of a high school production, I have to read something from the Pone legal team. Alright, let's see, I got it around here somewhere. Move, Mr. Fluffles! Oh, there it is, right next to the canned beans. I got it. A Hot Lead is one of the greatest films I've seen in years. The characters are great. The directing is fantastic. Blake Weiss shows us his astounding talent yet again.
I know men who would die to defend that honor.
Easily the best film of 2017, and for a matter of fact, the whole 21st century. I give this film 11 stars out of 11. Now that that's out of the way, I could begin my actual review. This movie fucking sucks! Well, it's not that bad. I mean, at its core, there are some moments that are bad, mostly all of them. But at the same time, there are plenty of good things as well. The film has a watchable plot and some fun characters, for example, Blake Weiss and... Blake Weiss. No, but seriously, there's actually some good filmmaking here. I guess a lot of that is thanks to directing of Nick Geoghegan. I mean, he's obviously no Spielberg, but he obviously knows what he's doing. Or at least he's good at pretending to know what he's doing. Part 2. The directing. One of the things that I really like about directing in the film is the massive attention to detail. It's obvious that a lot of time and effort went into making all the little details in the film. Things like the coroner's report, the smoking in the cigarettes, the weapons, the Polaroids, important plot points being set up before they become important, and so on. Every single piece of the paper on the corkboard was custom made for the film. That kind of thing really impresses me. So if all this time was spent on making perfect details, then why the fuck are they making so many mistakes in the details? Seeing as this film was a high school project with a due date and all, perhaps these mistakes were due to time limits. Who knows? Maybe with a little bit more time, these little things could have been avoided. Instead, every scene has enough tiny mistakes to feed a small African village. Wait, what? Number 1, background fedoras. Number 2, tripods in the background of scenes. Number 3, people in the background of scenes. Are they even supposed to be there? I don't know. Number 7, people looking directly into the camera. Number 12, things that don't make no sense. Things like why just firing a gun in a clearly populated neighborhood not raise any eyebrows? He's right there. There isn't any silencer on the gun, is there? Is everyone in this town deaf and stupid? This guy's asleep. What idiot made this? I'm talking to you, Nick Copenhagen. Hey, speaking of the sleeping guy, George, I think he's called.
George, where are you? Boss!
The credits say he's played by this Chris Smith fellow, but so is this guy, Haas. And what about Kyle Smith, who also plays 2 characters, and Nick plays 3 guys, and Lucan plays 2. Kirsten plays 2 different, maybe even 3 different ladies. Is Mia playing 2 different parts or just 1? Hey, isn't that Wes and Ari? You aren't supposed to even exist yet. Get out of my scene, you plot holes.
It's got more holes than the plot of a noir parody film in it.
Hey, stop being meta. That's my job. But as I was saying, all these actors are being reused. Did they only have 10 actors? See, kinda like how John Hughes uses the same kids in all of his movies, or how Wes Anderson casts the same people in every film, Nick Geronimo also tends to use the same people in all of his projects. Of course, there's nothing inherently wrong with that. Is there? Part 3, Pone Studios. So I did some research and found some things about Kids Make Movies Too. According to the official Ponepedia, This thing was founded back in 2011 by Nick Galapagos and the Smith brothers. The name comes from Nick's belief that, contrary to popular belief, even some idiot kids could make an endearing, meaningful, and technically well-made films. That's kind of actually inspirational. A group of young folks doing what they love? I'd watch that. Let's see what sort of high-quality content Kid Makes Movies 2 produces. Number 1. Dancing Bad. So I picked some videos at random from the history of porn, which should hopefully showcase the talents, skills, and creativity of its creators. Alright, let's see what we got here. Dancing Bad? Dancing Bad came out in June of 2014. For those of you who can't count, that's only 3 years before Hot Lead. Or is it 4? Anyway, moving on. 3 or 4 years is not a lot of time, at least in the movie industry. So let's see what 3-year difference made for the quality of Nick Ganondorf's films.
Son, I'm dying. Mom!
Oh no.
What is this shit?
Why is the camera moving so much?
So you suck at dancing.
Who's laughing? Put the camera down! We've already established that these kids own a tripod. Why aren't you using it? So anyway, this isn't that bad so far, but...
What was that? Oh!
What?
Halt!
What?
Who dare step on my turf?
What? Is this racist? Or sexist? I don't know who should be offended. Anyway, for the first attempt, I guess this isn't too bad. I mean, they were young. On a scale of the bad things, I would say this falls somewhere between Adam Sandler and 9/11. Right next to testicular cancer. It's no worse than anything these guys make. You hack frauds! How? The matter? It hurts me. I mean, there are a few good things. This joke about training montages is sort of funny.
What you need is a training montage.
The slow progression from bad dancing to slightly less awful dancing is well done. I guess this Nick Googly Eyes can make a pretty good montage. I'll get to that later though. Anyway, everything else stinks. Hey look, it's Nick playing another character. Maybe if you have 5 different roles, you should cast 5 different... Wait, is that a tripod? Why aren't you using the fucking tripod? Number 2, Dare. Alright, I don't have much to say about this one because it sucks. It's kinda like Dancing Bad. I'm pretty sure it was made for the same school project. If you take that into consideration, these videos are kinda charming. They're awful.
It's party time!
But at least they have some efforts, and they go above and beyond most school projects. They should be awarded the Medal of Honor. I mean, have you seen a student video project before? How embarrassing. Surprisingly, a lot of the best content on porn comes from school projects. Even a Hot Lead was a school project. It's clear that these kids care about a little more than just a good grade. But just because you put effort into something doesn't make it good. I mean, Mussolini put in a lot of effort. Did that make him a good person? Yes it did. So there is the first we see of Chris and Kyle on the channel. And as far as some of these other losers go, they aren't too bad at acting. I do find it interesting that Kyle appears constantly throughout the background of the video, though I don't know if Nick Google or Double told him to be there. Well, it's a little distracting, at least for me. He's listed 7 times in the credits. I see a pattern emerging, don't you? Number 3, the Pikachu. I don't have a lot to say about this one. I just wanted to point out this kid, Jack. He's fantastic. He's not in many videos, but he's the best part of all of them. You hear that, Nick Gondel-dork? Why don't you put real actors in your movies, like this kid, not this idiot? Oh God. The rest of this video is pretty bad though. Like this clip here is sideways. You could hear Nick here. You can see him here. And hey look, it's the famous vanishing tripod. Aw, look at him. I can't hate these videos. It's too innocent. I need something worse. Number 4, Something worse. A smiling man is the worst thing I've ever seen. And I've met Charles Manson. I'm getting tired of talking about these dumb videos. That's not the point of the review anyway. You came here for a hot lead, and you probably don't give a shit about the smiling man. Neither do I. It's dumb. I much prefer this video, the handshake. It's simple, it's quick, and it's funny. It's got this guy, Wesley Davis, and some other guys, Paul Guano too. After Darren the Smiling Man, this video is a masterpiece. I don't know if you ever heard of this college humor series, Hardly Working, but this feels like one of those shorts. It's short, simple, probably improvised. I think that improv is one of Poe's strong suits. This video is definitely better than Dancing Bad, because they used the fucking tripod. Number 5, some other shit. I'll try to make the rest of these quick. Jesus Christ, there's so many. The jump is fine. It's only 20 seconds, so I'll just ignore it. CDM Eats is the epitome of highbrow, pun-based humor. There are so many puns in this video that it's actually kind of impressive. Also, if I'm not mistaken, Nick Goomba had nothing to do with this video. Maybe that's why it's so good. But one thing Nick did do was an excellent cake! This video is wonderful. While it doesn't have as many puns as Wesley's cooking video, it's impressively well done, being a parody of both 80s and 90s sitcoms and cooking videos. This may be one of my favorite videos on the channel. Maybe Nick's days of a sad, feeble attempt at entertainment are gone. Okay, I take it back. Nah, this video isn't awful. It's kind of creative, but mostly it's boring. Not like how Casablanca is well made but boring. More like how Tokyo Story is boring and also dumb. Hey, stop that. I don't care if you think it's one of the best movies ever made. It's boring, damn it. Movies like this is why we bombed Pearl Harbor. Ah, shit. People are clicking away because I'm not talking about a hot lead. Shit. Oh god, there's so many left. Ah, crap. I'll go fast. Why Not is kind of funny, and the Chem Office is alright. I wasn't going to talk about Pwn, but I just wanted to point out that Pwn number 11 is just ripping off Red Letter Media's review of the Star Wars Holiday Special. Stop ripping off Red Letter Media! Oh, the matter it burns. The horses is conflicting. I quite like it, but some people, Wesley, say it's the worst thing ever. It's well made for the most part. There are too many parts with these 5 actors. They play too many roles to count. Actually, I lied. I did count. It's 18. Chris plays 7 people, including a woman. Wait a second. Is that a house from a hot lead? Is Kyle playing a foreign drug dealer? Wait, Chris played a woman and a hot lead as well. And hey.
So I was like, girl, you don't know a thing about anacondas.
That's the anaconda line. It sounds familiar.
And so I was like, girl, you don't know anything about the anaconda.
Hey, wait. What is going on here? This counter from Pwn is the same one they used in the saloon. And this pool is used in all of these videos. And this scene from the Dawn of the Doom trailer is at the same table. And so is this one. Jesus Christ, these guys reused more sets than Ed Wood. Ah, shit. I gotta finish this video fast or they'll cut off my parole again. The PSA is pretty bad, but Tudor TV is fine. The game is interesting. It has a good actor. Jack, that is. Fingerboarding? What? That exists? Oh wait, there's only one left. Oh, it seems like Kyle is portrayed as another actor. Oh, it's a can move. What's he gonna do? He's opening the can. What's he? Part 4. The plot. Alright, now that I wasted 15 minutes of your time complaining about Pwn, I'm gonna waste more time complaining about Pwn. I mentioned earlier that the plot is one of the film's strong suits. Well, I lied. Is it perfect? Hell no! But for the most part, at least it makes sense. Some of the parts are actually pretty well thought out. Let's get into it, shall we? I'm gonna get into spoilers here, but if you haven't seen the movie, what are you even doing here? So we start out with this guy, Walter Lewis, played by Joey Ciafani, who also happens to write the film. Already we can see some excellent staging. In fact, this opening scene is probably one of the most well thought out sequences in the film. More than I could say for this scene. but we'll get to that later. Allow me to perform a complex and detailed analysis of this scene in excruciating detail. Right before this, we get a decently realistic parody of a noir film intro. The square aspect ratio, the font, the music, all of it contributes to the establishing that there's gonna be some effort to make an accurate parody of noir elements. Suddenly, the aspect ratio lightens and the phone rings. We are pulled back to reveal Joey. We don't know it yet, but he's going to be a very important character later on, and it's only fitting that he is the first character that we see. We can see a paper airplane fly over his head, which most discreetly sets up a major plot point later on in the film, and an inside joke, which plays off later.
This type of thing usually goes right over your head.
As the camera rotates, we see Detective Michaels, portrayed by Kyle, walked by Houston, drawing our attention to that part of the frame. As the chief approaches, an unknown character enters the frame and sits beside the detective in a white hat. There are 6 people in the scene, 2 in the front, 2 in the center, and 2 in the background. Our eyes are naturally drawn to the front, with most dialogue and movement happening there. The 4 background characters serve to show us that the guild is busy and chaotic, where things are always happening. There's a sense of urgency. We suddenly whip quickly over to Henderson, hiding a cut between 2 takes. The way Henderson and Lewis act towards the chief tells us everything we need to know about this character. He's a no-nonsense, take-charge chief kind of guy, much like the standard archetype of the grizzled chief found in other noir films. Henderson mentions the disappearance of Johnson.
Johnson's been missing since last Friday.
Again setting up later plot points. And the way Houston immediately shuts down Lewis also tells us about Lewis himself, and how he's disrespected by his own superiors. In many ways, he's too confident for his own good. We end with a slow push in on Houston, and as he says Detective Clues' name,
Detective Clues.
we cut on a shot of Clues himself. There's an exhausting amount of effort put into the scene alone. I can't really dissect all of the scenes as much, and some of the finer details, like the usage of movements to draw attention, probably weren't planned out as Nick Guildenstern would like you to think. But there's no denying that there's a good level of thought went into many aspects of the film. In one scene alone, we have 2 well-established major characters, 3 instances of foreshadowing to a major plot point, 2 running jokes, and some minor details to show us how the film world works. We have established early on the significance of planes throughout the film. The sound of planes signal rising tension, airplanes are used to draw attention to certain shots. Either this was a carefully planned detail, or Nick Galifianakis has an airplane fetish.
Yeah, there's a weird obsession with airplanes.
Yeah, I love the airplanes.
I wasn't even here when they filmed it, but I heard about this. The last, action scene, they're just, airplanes in every shot.
I know. One of the creepiest things I've ever seen is when we say, hey look, it's an airplane there. He goes, takes his phone, films it, he turns around to me and Jerry's like, I like the planes.
I'll let you decide. And one of my favorite details is the color coordination of the fedoras. Every character that wears a white fedora ends up dying. Devin Carter, Johnny Bioy, the bartender. The only exception seems to be the dame at Daytona Beach, though Kirsten's character does get shot here. Even Tom Cruise, who wears a brown fedora the entire film, puts on a white fedora before getting fucking torn apart! These types of details can be found all over in this film. The chaotic nature of this scene is important, and one of my favorite details in the film. Early on, we see a bustling and crowded guild. We see detectives wandering around the halls, discussing business. There are many people here at the guild, and we see this from the very start of Act 1. But when Act 2 starts, something's different.
Gone! What do you mean gone?
I mean, they're gone. We have no clues. We can't find clues or the killer.
There's a very different kind of chaos in this scene. Unorganized and uncontrolled. Houston verbally assaults his men, Langley rushes in with bad news, and Henderson is even shoved. There's almost nobody in the background, showing that Lewis truly is the last hope for Chief Houston, and more importantly for the guild. In Act 3, things are even taken further. We see a frantic Lewis come back to the guild, only to find it dying. The lights are dim, Henderson is alone other than 2 others who sit somber, not working. The absence of chaos is a jarring break from the excitement of the first scene, and at the climax of the film, there is again a lack of chaos. but this time it's replaced by calmness. Things are back to normal. I wish I could break down every scene like that, but in the interest of not wasting your fucking time, I will stop myself. My point is, stuff's going on here. Anyway, the plot, I guess. A lot of the problems I have with the plot are little things that just distract me, like how Houston goes to meet Clues. Why does Clues so quickly agree to go as the chief? I understand that he wants to defend his legacy, but there's no sign of him building up to giving in to Houston's request. Is it really just because he insulted him? I mean, I don't like being insulted either, but I'm not going to turn my whole life around just because someone hurt my feelings. When someone insults me, I give them a stern talking to. And then I burn down their house. Are we gonna believe that 9 years since Clues has been out of the guild,
9 by my count,
Houston never once tried to re-recruit him? And if he did, why would he only agree now? Wait, did I say this was a good plot? So Henderson gives some convenient exposition, and Clues finds out that he's giving a partner. Here's our first big problem. I like Devin. He's a fun character, and Wesley plays him well. But he's almost entirely unnecessary. If Houston knows Clues prefers working alone, why would he have to force a partner on him? Especially when Clues was already barely willing to come back in the first place. And why Devin Carter, a rookie? Wouldn't it be dangerous to give an amateur a serial murder for their first case? Wouldn't Clues be better working with Michaels? Or Langley? Or Peters? Hell, even Henderson will work better with him. And what about Mira's character, informant number 3? Does she work with the guild, or does she just happen to work on the case alone? This character, played by Grace, is present both here and at the guild, so clearly they're somehow connected. And why wouldn't Houston just put them together?
I've done over 33 cases with her back in Round Lake in a private office, and she's been completely reliable.
Seeing as they wanted to work together before, Mira is clearly a good detective, seeing that she figured out the connection to Johnny when the guild couldn't. Man, I'm so confused.
It's got more holes than the plot.
I thought I told you to
Noir
shut up!
film.
So Mira sends this obviously gay couple to investigate a drug dealer called Johnny Boy. Boy, what a dumb name. Luckily, these idiots who worked with him leave some vital clues conveniently outside in the open for Clues and Carter to discover. Why would they do that? They could have taken the boxes inside. Why didn't they? Are they stupid? Blind and stupid, that is, because this idiot couldn't see 2 adult men in a bush 3 feet away. Wait, is that a banana? Bananas aren't weapons. Oh, maybe they are. Hold on, I'll try it on Mr. Fluffles. Die, you stupid cat! Actually, now that I think about it, there's a lot of banana imagery in this film. This guy uses a banana as a gun. Clues replaces this gun with a banana in this scene. There's a banana in Johnny's leg when he dies. Hoss sees the banana in this scene. And he has a banana gun too. Man, Nick Geoghegan has a weird fetish with planes and bananas. So in typical buddy cop fashion, 2 detectives become good friends, because one of them makes the other feel bad for only thinking about himself. Strangely enough, it only takes Carter insulting him. Man, Clues must really have low self-esteem if all it takes to change his heart is a well-timed insult.
George, I swear to God, if that's you, I'm gonna...
After a gunfight, they take Johnny back to the guild, completing Act 3 of the film. And they're forever honored as heroes, and they go on to be the best friends. You know, standard family movie bullshit.
Holy!
Oh? Oh my, wait.
Keep looking.
Oh shit.
Wait, how much longer is this film?
Devin!
Huh. So I guess the film's not over yet. Chief gives this incredibly complicated and dangerous case which has resulted in the deaths of several highly trained professional detectives to his unpaid intern, Walter Lewis. So this is where my biggest problem with this movie lies. I don't think Lewis does anything to solve the case. Mira found the lead on Johnny Boy.
A kingpin goes by the name of Johnny Boy.
Carter suggested here that it was a setup.
Lipstick, I asked them to analyze it. It's not the same shipment as Johnny's. Were we seeing patterns where there weren't any? Or was there another side?
It seems Johnson even manages to figure it all out, but he is killed before he can do anything about it. Lewis stumbles across the lipstick by complete accident, but it's not even the lipstick that leads to the climax. Hoss just happens to mention that he worked for Johnny. All Walter really did was figure out that it was a female voice on the recording. Even then, that leads nowhere because the guild shuts down by then, so when he talks to Hoss, he doesn't even bring up the female voice. You could argue that the voice is the reason he took interest in the woman in the Polaroid, but wait, hold on. Hoss worked for Johnny. What? Nobody knew this. He literally had the picture of the killers in his fucking hat. This asshole could have solved the case beforehand before the body count hit 5. Michaels would be alive, and so would Johnson and Carter. Speaking of which, why does Carter get killed but Clues doesn't? The Femmes didn't ask for a ransom, and Clues wasn't even remotely on the right track. He thought that Johnny was the killer the whole time. What use did he serve to them? What's your excuse, ladies?
Are you kidding? Act 2 would have been really boring with this villain running around.
Stop that! Your meta is stupid! You're tearing down the fourth wall like you're fucking Ronald Reagan!
Mr. Fatal Femmes tear down this fourth wall.
Part 5. The characters. Well, this movie kinda makes up points for the shitty plot because I love these characters. Mostly all of them are pretty well written. Each have their own flaws that make them relatable and interesting. Perfect characters are boring people. Flaws are what make us human. Well, unless you're Harvey Weinstein. Let's take a look at our main characters. Number 1, Tom Cruise. Tom Cruise is your typical been out of the game character who doesn't do that anymore. He's got a tragic backstory, and he drinks a lot. Keep in mind, this film was supposed to be a parody of noir film, and in terms of the characters, it excels at that. Cruise is a wonderful example of the jaded detective, who passed his prime but is pulled back into the game out of desperation. And sort of an ironic coincidence. Like most noir movies, it is the woman who pulls him back in, but obviously this movie takes a different approach to that trope. I am of course referring to the fact that Chief Houston is a woman. Ari's performance is pretty good, and he plays a good drunk. I find that out of the 3 main guys of Pwn, he's the most likable. Probably because he's an everyman type of guy. A loving boyfriend, a funny person, doesn't take things too seriously, and doesn't pretend to know what he's doing. Kind of the opposite of Tom Cruise. Number 2, Devin Carter. Devin Carter is the best character in this entire movie.
I know.
And of the 3 main characters, he is the only one to have a complete character arc. And of course, he's only present for Act 1. I just want to say, Nick Gonchoid, if you're listening to this, I have one thing to say to you. If you make a good character, keep him in the entire fucking movie! I don't know if you ever seen a noir movie, but one trope they frequently use is voiceover narration. Usually, this is hearted and sleazy in nature, and has some sort of drawn-out tone that is very identifiable as part of the noir genre. The gimmick of giving Devin Carter a recorder which he uses for this very purpose is possibly the best joke in this entire film.
And it fallen out of favor in the Dan's eyes.
You've fallen out of favor in my eyes.
Not only are his recordings hilarious,
I was just a wee fetus,
but in the end, the recorder itself becomes an important part of this plot. You can tell that most of Wesley's lines are improvised, but they generally work pretty well with his character. As I mentioned earlier, improv is one of Pwn's strong suits. Lots of scenes in this film were improvised. Things like Houston slapping Clues, Houston serving Henderson, Houston slapping Lewis, Houston finally grabbing Clues, Houston just barely containing his bloodlust in this classic scene, Houston thinking about using this knife to murder Clues, and so on. Number 3, Walter Lewis. Walter Lewis is the least interesting character out of the 3, but he still manages to be relatable and likable. We still root for him because he's dedicated, despite his obvious lack of skills. He's trying his darndest to be a detective, sort of how like Nick Jujubee is trying his hardest to be a good director. Indulge me here for a minute. In this anal orgy, Nick is portrayed by wannabe detective Lewis. Houston tells Lewis that he can't do it, ignores his attempts to offer his assistance, never gives him the chance to shine. That's sort of like the story behind Kids Make Movies too, and the corkboard is sort of like a Holly to self. Lewis sort of proves himself to Henderson, his peer, by putting so much effort into his corkboard. The details and techniques make it impressive, and just like the film the board is finally destroyed in the end. But I'll get to that part of the analogy later. In fact, you could argue that all three detectives represent a different aspect of Nick's character. Louis is kind of unsure about himself, but he knows that given certain opportunities, he could do something worthwhile and wants to prove himself. Throughout the film, he gets better and better at what he does, just as Nick has worked his way from dancing bad to this. Clues' character is cynical and self-deprecating, he beats himself up over past mistakes, and ends up dropping out of what he loves doing because of his bad experience. Ever heard of the sequence? Ever heard of the Dark Age of Pawn? Lastly, Devin Carter represents a sort of eager, jump right inside of Nick. He is confident and seems to know what he's doing, but at the same time he's deeply insecure about his own talents and the harsh reality of the industry he has worked so hard to break into. It's kind of a beautiful metaphor, isn't it? What's that you say? I'm reading too far into this. Well, shit. Why don't you just ask Nick himself? I have his number right here. You see, I got on the dark web for $50 and my only child. Alright, let me just get his contact pulled up, alright? Alright, there we go. Oh, he picked up.
Hello?
Hello, this is Mr. Salami.
Who?
Johnny No Shoe Salami. I subscribe to your web zone, BMW or whatever.
How did you get this number?
I just want to ask some questions.
Alright.
Are the characters of Devin Carter, Tom Cruise, and Walter Lewis subtle representations of your own insecurities as a filmmaker?
I kind of just wrote characters.
Can I be in your next film?
What?
When are you posting the sequence? Hello? Oh, he hung up. Number 4, Chief Houston. Alright, so now we have this guy. 40-time Cappy nominee Blake Weiss. He's the best actor in this film. The only problem is he's barely in the movie. After the montage in Act 2, we don't really see him again until the ending. Why wouldn't you use the only good actor in your movie to the fullest? At least he survived. At least we don't have to watch the chief die in a gruesome murder. Hey, wouldn't it have made more sense for the femmes to take him hostage? I mean, Clues is just some guy. But if they took the chief for ransom, they'd probably get a lot of money. And it would probably give Joey a better reason to go get him. Help him prove himself to the chief, like he always wanted. I don't know. Maybe that's not convenient enough for the plot of the movie.
Act 2 would have been really boring with this villain running
Hey,
around.
get out of here! Hey, speaking of Blake Weiss's acting, one of the best scenes in the film, which Blake Weiss himself called his Oscar scene, is the one that starts off Act 2. It features another actor I could talk about. So I think this guy is supposed to be the chief's right-hand man, and he seems to be the only one capable of standing up to the chief and get himself to calm down and whatnot. He was originally supposed to be played by this guy, Stephen Weinstock. I think he was supposed to be played as sort of a straight man, a slightly comedical parental figure for Lewis. Instead, this complete hack fraud Luciano Alto Stargiotti plays him. Did it pay off? Or was it the dumbest idea ever? I'll let you decide. So this guy jumps between really good acting and really embarrassing acting. Like this scene with the chief was great.
We have nothing! I mean nothing! The rival guilds aren't helping us, and Lucento refuses to contact us!
But this scene with Clues and Carter is kind of weird.
Henderson, can you give us a moment? We'll be right out.
Sure thing, Detective Clues.
It feels unnatural. Well, what about this part?
Hope you having fun, bye-bye.
What about this scene in the end?
Hey, wait. I forgot my hat, was it?
That's my only character trait.
Hey, that kind of sounds like me. Oh no. Part 6 or 7? Johnny Boy. Kyle Smith is a good actor. At least, a good comedic actor. In this film, he plays an Irish gangster who assaults his man with bananas. His accent sort of fluctuates between Leprechaun and Irish Republican Army.
There's no one even here!
I swear to God, if that's you,
But it's no more distracting than how Houston sounds like Batman in this scene.
I know men who would die to defend that honor.
While Clue says this line.
I don't know. Spit it out, you window licker. Just what? Spit it out.
Or that stupid face Lucan makes. Kyle's character is what we refer to as a red herring. or a detail we expect to be more important or significant, but really isn't. If you ignore how long the film is, his capture really does feel like the end of the film. It's actually kind of interesting twist that he ends up being murdered himself. We're all left to wonder, well, if it wasn't him, then who? Also, I want to mention his henchman really quickly. And this guy, who's funny. And this guy, who's also funny. And then this strange character. He isn't named, but just for convenience we'll call him this idiot.
I know you're in there. Come out where I can see you loud and clear.
This idiot's an idiot. He's played by Lucan, who again is really funny. Then again, The Great Leap Forward was really funny too. Wait, what? Chapter 15, The Detective. So there are like a lot of detectives in this movie. I'll start with this guy, Detective Michaels. He's played by Kyle Smith in a mustache. He only really appears twice in the film, and then he dies. Good for him. Get out early, as I always say. Then there is Detective Langley, played by Nick Gandalf. He's really only there as a punchline, which is sort of fine, I suppose. There's also the informants, number 2 and number 3. Mira does well, but this lady says absolutely nothing in the whole film. At least they survive. Or at least I think they do. They might be the only ones who survive. Let's see. Some guy called Detective Lloyd dies before the film starts. Michaels and Carter both die. Anderson dies, Johnson dies, and of course, Clues dies. I don't know if Mira has played the same character here, so I'll assume she dies. So who's left? We have Lewis, Henderson, Houston, Foreman number 2, Langley, this guy called Peterson who we only see in this scene, and Haas. Oh, I almost forgot Haas. Haas is a character in this film. Number 8, The Fatal Femmes. Nah, I'm just kidding. Haas is a pretty good character. Chris plays his character well. It seems he's typecast on Poland as a sort of weird or old person. Like the woman in The Hostage, this old man in Gone with the Wind, the dirt merchant in Just an Average Tuesday, and this man in the background of the Fortnite video. For whatever reason, Henderson sends this limping, broken, senile old man with a banana to apprehend 2 fast, agile, and healthy young women. And even weirder, this looks. Hey, speaking of which, number 8, The Fatal Femmes. Alright, so lastly, like most movies, this one has some villains. Other than Johnny Bioy, we have these 3 women. Yes, I'm counting the Dame of Daytona Beach as a villain. Why, you may ask? Because I knew her. See, back in 1937, I too dated her. I met her on a beach. Daytona Beach, that is. She was a cold, manipulative bitch. My heart is still broken. I might be 108 years old, but I still have feelings, damn it! Anyway, these 2 other women are the fetal films. I mean fecal fens. I mean feudal ferns. The fetal fiends. The fiscal fumes. The Fantastic Four. These 2 women are the deadly dames. They're kind of bad. They were supposed to be played as sexy, cold-hearted, strong-willed female antagonists. You know, a flip-on, the typical femme fatale in noir movies. But they don't feel right. It's almost out of place in this movie. I mean, after a whole hour of this shit, this is our payoff? I mean, obviously these 2 girls did not want to be in this film. That's obvious. This is what I mean when I say the film falls apart at the end. Not just these villains, but the whole ending shootout. Sure, it's exciting, but if you really think about it, it makes no fucking sense. Observe this animation I have made that shows how this fight scene is choreographed. Alright, so these 4 are all 5 feet apart away from each other. Gunshots fired, and somehow these goons miss at close range. Mia chases him, and despite having a clear shot, goes outside. So he sneaks down this crowded hallway to hide, where Chris, who I guess was standing still the whole time, makes his move. He is karate chopped, becomes a goat, and dies. Ollie runs out this back way. Suddenly Joey appears at the end of what is obviously the exact same aisle, and we see a new goon, played by Layla, who misses him with a shotgun at close range. He grabs Chris's gun and shoots her, I guess implying that she did not run off after all. Suddenly we are outside, and both detectives are together. They hide behind a conveniently placed van, and the femmes almost immediately come out the same door. Mira is now in the van, jumps out, then jumps back in. They scurry around a corner in clear sight of the van and the femmes. While the vehicle does make a tight 3-point turn, the femmes jump in, and we see that Mira is still in the back. So who's driving the van? Anyway, it pulls forward, parks literally in front of the detectives, and Mira jumps out and shoots Cruz at close range, yet does not hit Joey. When Cruz dies, I guess the femmes are just standing there and watching? Neither has moved when Joey gets up and kills them. Also, the femmes are still in the back of the van. They jump out the side and run. When the backup appears, the femmes are almost in the exact same place, and an elderly man catches up with them. Also, his jacket disappears, his limp, and his cough, and his direction change in between all those cuts. Then, to finish it all off, Henderson hugs an injured Joey. Oh, I haven't seen a shootout this flawed since my cousin's wedding. Well, seeing how badly choreographed this scene was, I wonder how it looked in the script. I mean, did Nick plan a well thought out, choreographed shootout scene? Oh, okay then. That makes more sense. Part 6, the music. Believe it or not, this film has wonderful music. Most of it was composed by Wesley Davis, and he did a good job. This man is a musical genius. Just listen to this fire beat from Tudor TV.
Black, black, what shall I do?
Or this tune from Pwn 8.
Like when you say uh-oh.
We're just elevator music for Nick.
What a talented young man. No, but really, the music in this film is actually pretty impressive. Every character has a theme instrument, and certain musical stings foreshadow events, and that kind of attention to detail is pretty neat. He even wrote an entire goddamn opera, and he sang it too, some sort of weird language that I do not understand. What language is that? I don't know, I don't speak foreign. Just as Nick improves since dancing bad, Wesley has improved at making music too. I will play a short piece of music from the sequence, a hot lead, and the new film, Dear Evan Hansen. Isn't that beautiful? Hey, we might as well listen to some music I made. Where have all the good men gone? And where are all the gods? Where's the streetwise Hercules to fight the rising odds? I need a hero. Part 7. Another thing that I like. The visuals in this movie are probably the worst part, but occasionally there were some mildly interesting shots. Nick Gilligan Island definitely likes his long takes. There are only a few in this film, mainly the one in the opening, the one in the start of Act 2, and the one at the very end. But I also quite like the pacing of the shootout, even if it makes no goddamn sense. In these shots was the planes were pretty good, and so was that warehouse. I love this montage. It's beautiful and interesting and engaging. It's exciting. It tells us things about Lewis, about Houston, and about the severity of the case. Also, look at this map. The fucker drew a map that nobody will ever see, and marked where all the deaths were, and gave all the victim names and pictures. This is incredibly impressive. And in the end, what matters more? A cohesive, whole free story with fun characters, funny dialogue, attention to detail, and an overall engaging film. Wait, I'm not talking about Hot Lead. I'm talking about the fucking Lego movie! Part 8, The Endling. So now that you know way more than a Hot Lead that you ever wanted to know, I have to ask you, is it good? I'm not so sure myself. I like the characters, and the jokes are funny. There's obviously effort put behind every little thing, but does that make up for the confusing story, the slow pacing of the second act, an embarrassing climax, the shitty acting? It's kind of subjective. Some people might get something out of a Hot Lead, others might not. At the very least, I think for a first feature film, Nick Zutite did a really good job. There are some problems, but every film has problems. There was producing problems with The Godfather. Apocalypse Now took ages to get done. Even critics hated Citizen Kane, one of the best films of all time. But, I guess in the end, the only ones who know if a Hot Lead is truly good or bad is Nick himself. So I guess it's my time to go. This has been fun. Maybe I'll be back. Or maybe I'll die in a horrible goat riding accident. Either way, I leave you with a question that I think all of us have. Where the fuck is Dawn of the Dead?
Sometimes the world looks perfect, nothing to rearrange. Sometimes you just get a feeling like you need some kind of change.